now at my dacha. This is like country house for all the Russian people who live in the cities.
All right, I'm very happy to be back. Today we have a great friend and a very inspirational figure to me. His name is Andrey Ryzhkov, and we are going to start a segment called Birras with Ryzhkov. Birras is the Venezuelan word for beer. Andrei is a music producer and a tutor, and he teaches at Moscow Music School, and he is involved, as we just discussed, in 1,000,000+3 projects. He's a super interesting cat, full of very powerful ideas, and he will allow me to introduce to you some things about the Russian life that I always wanted to, but this will be a recurring segment that we're going to have constantly, and he's going to be a constant guest on our show. We welcome my good bro, Andrey Ryzhkov. Hello, how are you, man?
Hello, Leo. So I'm really excited to be in this state of like life right now. So I'm actually good. I can't blame anyone in like, oh, we are sitting at home, we're so lonely, and no, not at all, because dacha
Yeah. Because
rules, man.
dacha. Dear non-Russian people, find out, Google dacha. Google the word dacha. Dacha is, something I noticed as soon as I started living here. By the way, you're all going to notice that this is a way much more relaxed episode, and so the Birras with Ryzhkov are going to be, because, Andrei and I are so fucking busy all the time that we never have chance to sit down and just talk for a while. And if we call it a project, then we can do it, because we are just workaholics and we cannot, if we just call it a project, then we will do it for 12, 25 hours. But anyways, going back to Russia, you guys will notice, those who come here for the first time and start interacting with this place, that is way much more chilled than what I thought. At the same time, it's way much more aggressive than what I thought. But the concept of dacha is a place where you just go to either super relax or get super trashed. Is that something? Is this a good way to put it?
Okay, so yeah, like some people, they use dacha for absolute 100% chill, sitting everywhere without any stuff to do, just with a book maybe, even without the internet. So I mean, the dacha is the internet free place of half of the people in Russia. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
have any connection, so you're just like, oh, where's my phone, where's my connection? You're running all around the house and trying to call somebody, but actually you don't. You just like put the telephone away. So, and half of the people doing this, and they're making some grill, drinking beer or something.
Is this an
Um,
ancient tradition? Like how old? How old do you think this goes back to?
Dacha. So
Yeah.
you can read about that from Chekhov or even
Uh-huh.
Pushkin. So I mean, it's like late, maybe 17th century, 17, maybe
So
18th
so maybe
century.
that's why Russia is so big, because it was like, all right, we everybody has to have a dacha, so let's just make a freaking huge country.
Absolutely. So it was like previously it was like people who were in power. So I mean, the guys who were noble, they had summer residency and winter residency, and the winter residency
Right.
was in the city, and it was like huge buildings with a lot of people who served them, and they had two summer residency. So later on, some people became free, and there were merchants and all these
Yeah.
guys who weren't noble but they had money, so they began to build their own places, and for some reason it was like called dacha. I don't know the origin of the word, by the
Uh-huh.
way. Interesting point.
Interesting.
So some years, some centuries ago, we began to live in dachas in summer, and now it's like easy. You just grab a car or train and go like 100 kilometers from
Yes.
Moscow or from the big city, and you're like super chilled in the country. But in those times, it was different experience. So you had to get a horse, like a horse
Okay.
with some wagon. I don't know, maybe some nice, beautiful stuff. Going those times. So, and you were like tripping for 2 days or 3 days to your place. And it wasn't funny. It was like, okay, my ass hurt, my back hurt, everything
Right.
hurts, and you go to Dacha and you're living shit all of it. I mean, like for the whole summer, and then you go back, because otherwise it will be like stupid. 3 days, place, 3 days another place.
Right.
So people in Russia was super chill because of that, and there was huge distances, like 100 kilometers. Okay, going
Yes.
3 days by horses, like okay,
That's
two
one of the
days by.
things that I fell in love with very quickly since I moved to Russia. It was this fact that whenever there is a big challenge, there is always somebody up for it. Let's go 1,000 kilometers somewhere to just do for a day and come back. Okay, no problem. Actually, let me tell you, when you learn Russian, there is something that shocks you, which is the usage of the word normalna. Normalna. No, for the for the non for the non-Russian speaking audience, normalna just means normal. And if you say this word in Spanish, it kind of has a negative connotation. But in Russian, I noticed that it has a connotation of that's what we usually do. It is our accustomed thing. It means so many things. Is that a correct way to see it? Like the word normalna?
Yeah, but it's like it's a multi-tool. You can use it in any situation. So simple example: coronavirus began, and it will be okay in Russian to say, "Oh, нормально."
Everything will be
So
okay.
like everything is totally fucked up, but you can just make this poker face and say "нормально," and
Normalna.
everybody will laugh. Like "нормально."
For example, you
So
have a lot of gear and you need to put it inside the car, and there is
yeah,
like you're making a show, and there are like these super heavy amps,
yeah,
and it's like normal. Let's just put it in there.
yeah.
Or your dacha is, for example, my family's dacha is 66 kilometers from Moscow, and if you are an English person and you think like, oh, I'm going to commute every day 66 kilometers from a house to the city and come back, man, it would be so heavy for them. But in here, you just say normalno, normalno,
Yeah.
normalno, and I really love that. As soon as
But
I
it
moved,
is.
yeah, it is normalno.
It is нормально. Yeah.
I really love that as soon as I moved from here. And actually, I may have told you this story offline, but I would love to record it. I don't remember if I told you. Well, for those who don't know, I'm like an investor in one of the studios here in Moscow called DTH Studios, and there was a specific event that pushed me to become an investor in the studio. I mean, it was an actual event that happened, and it's connected with this whole Normalna and Russian resilience, and also comradeship of the Russian mind. Let me tell you a story. So there was a party of one of the founders of the studio, and at this moment I'm just a foreigner guy who was helping them to build. I just met them like a week ago. I was helping to build the studio because they were building something and I wanted to help and I didn't know anybody. And so we went to the party, the birthday party of this guy. His name is Anton Kondakov. It was the birthday party of the founder of the place. And so all the community that surrounds the studio was there. And I was, just moved here. This was really, I moved in November and this was in April. So I was like, wow, like I'm fitting in. Yeah, I'm meeting people. Wow. I was so excited and so happy. And one of our friends say like, hey, let's go and smoke some hash outside. And I was like, okay, let's go and smoke some hash outside. And so when we went outside, he decided to smoke in front of the doorman, of the person who was the security person. And so I told him like, man, why don't we just go to smoke somewhere far away from this guy? I mean, he's gonna see you smoking and then he's not gonna let you back into the club. Exactly as I said, we smoked where my friend wanted. The doorman didn't allow us to come in because the doorman was so nice, man. I remember I was already tipsy and I was embracing him like, you're such a professional. You have done your work so well. I have never been kicked so perfectly out of a club, man. And so I came into the club. The new guy, remember, just met them, came into the club. And I screamed to everybody, guys, the doorman is not letting Artyom come back in. So what are we going to do about this? Everybody just, there were like 40 people. And the party was lit, man. Everybody was having such a great time. Every single person there just immediately took their coat and left. Every single one. Like for me, just moving from London, that was a gigantic shock. In London, I remember there were friends with, it was a stereotypical thing, man. There were friends with Long Island teas, Long Island, this digital with big, huge drinks, with almost the umbrella,
I love them. I'm a DJ, so
yes.
yeah, I know them perfectly.
And so everybody was like, okay, he can't be in here with us. We all leave, and
Yeah,
everybody just dropped their stuff and left. And it was snowing outside in London. It would be everybody. The kind of reaction would be like, oh well, good luck to him. Bye. And when I came back home that night, I told to my wife, like, what do you think if I invest the money we got from from our wedding, and also from Bitcoin, a little bit of money that I had made on Bitcoin, on this studio, and she was like, "Yes, absolutely," and that's the kind of things that I fell in love quickly here. Is this normal mentality? It's like, all right, well, things are tough for everybody, so let's just might as well just go.
Yeah. So in this situation with the guy with the doorman and or the whole story. So also нормально would be if all those 40 people will go to this doorman, beat the shit out of him. I mean, it's not Moscow kind of,
Of course,
you
of
know, like
course,
it's not Moscow style, but
of
I
course.
mean, somewhere like in Kemerovo or a little bit further from the capital
Chelyabinsk.
cities,
I heard
we
Chelyabinsk is
absolutely
pretty
it will be nормально 100%. So like beat the shit out of the doorman and just or even like ruin the whole party for everybody.
Yeah.
Also
Oh,
because
oh, oh. Of
because
course,
fuck why it's our friend, man. You
of
fucking
course.
our party, so we'll fuck yours. I mean,
How do you see?
like,
How do you see as the stereotype expectation versus reality of Russia? I mean, do you think that the stereotype is fair or?
well, like we say, не бывает дыма без огня. There is no smoke
Aha.
without a fire. So if you know something about Russia, actually,
Yeah.
there are a great chance that some of that could be true. So, like 200 years ago, there could be bears on the street of the Moscow.
Yeah.
200 years ago, easily, because there were forests all around, and we have really rich nature all around us. So, I mean, it's okay situation to like meet a moose somewhere nearby the Moscow or hare or like okay. So nobody got surprised of snakes in Australia. I mean, or like bats in somewhere in China. Okay, so in Russia we also have animals. So that's
Yeah.
fine. About like drinking amounts, so people think of Russian like obviously we're drunkards. Yeah, we drink a lot. Actually, this is kind of a problem. It's not funny actually, because there are a lot of people who drink in regions in somewhere outside of Moscow and
Yeah.
St. Petersburg, and they have difficult lives. They have a lot of work to do and not so much money to earn. So they kind of trying to go through the stress,
I'm
but
using this system to ask questions. Okay, so sometimes you'll see me raising my hand before
yeah,
I interrupt you. Okay.
yeah.
Carry on. I'll ask you a question in a bit. Yeah, before you leave the topic of drunkenness.
Yeah, so after all, we have something that is actually happening in Russia. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as usual, it's not Marvel movies. Everything is a little bit more calm and a little bit more, like plain. So everything is cool. Everything is like just normal,
Yeah.
as I told you.
Before I move on, normal. Before I move on,
Normal.
I once thought that there is this historical rumor that one of the reasons why Russia was converted to Orthodox Christianity was because it was accepting kind of the consumption of alcohol.
Yeah.
So I always thought, sometimes I had this thought, which was, well, this sounds really like drunkyard, but we forget that. I mean, right now we take for granted that we're full of heating everywhere and everything is hot, but maybe 700 years ago, a bottle of vodka could be a lifeline that could save your ass in a cold winter or something like that. Or is this a stupid idea?
Okay, so it wasn't vodka that time.
Mhm.
There was a drink called mead,
It's kind of
made
like
of
what I'm drinking, kind of. It's
made of honey. So
yeah.
beer made of honey, and it was like really widespread. And there were also different kind of beer and different kind of I don't know how to say it, nastoyka in Russian. So different kind of potions. Okay, so they were like for healing actually, because today's medicine is like far away from that we had
Yes.
previously, and also I think that the really huge point in all this Christianity stuff was like the style maybe, because Russian people we were living in the really you know gray landscapes all
Hmm.
around us, so we loved the gold
That's so
of
interesting, man.
of this churches of Constantinople. I mean, this is like our part of Christianity, and it was different from Catholicism. It was different from Muslim. So I mean, it was beautiful. for us. I mean, I understand that clearly. People in Russia love, we call it gypsy style, a little bit. Like gypsy. Did you see any gypsy weddings?
Yeah. Well, I mean, describe them, please.
Gypsy weddings. This is amazing stuff. You can just Google it on YouTube. Like gypsy wedding. That's it. Nothing special. And you will see all the people with golden ring on every finger, golden earrings. Oh, everything is golden, like absolutely 100%. And it's like, whoa, too much, man. It's even heavy. Okay, at least it's heavy. So in Russia, it was like, okay, let's grab some gold. So it wasn't like that we were poor anytime. No, it's also very interesting stuff. Russia was always really really rich country.
Yeah.
So we had gold, we had furs, we had everything, and after we suffered some hundreds years of golden horde, this like Mongols, Tatars. So we had all this shit happening,
Yeah.
and after that we just got all this rich and stuff and all this beauty and all this, and we grabbed it and we had it, and it was actually perfect fit for our Orthodox Christianity.
Really
so everything was golden, everything was rich, furs, all this stuff. I mean, it like easily it could be easily arranged in your head when you see all this in the one package of Russian people. So.
One question I when I speak with people, because people tend to know mostly about the Soviet Union, and me included. I mean, when I moved here, I was like, I'm moving to Soviet Russia, kind of, but when I started coming with my wife, before I actually moved here, and I was taken to Tretiakov Gallery, I was super shocked about the size of the Russian Empire. And how it was, because this is really something that people don't grasp. I mean, people think that, for example, my father, in all my Sunday lunch, because my father is a person quite leaning towards the left a little bit, and so he was always saying this assertion, which is like, well, Russia was a peasant country who had no infrastructure, and then the Soviet Union came and updated everything. And well, I know that to a certain extent that has some sort, because there were a lot of peasants, but when you start looking in close inspection, the Russian Empire was a gigantic thing. How do you see it when Russians are growing up and study the history here? Do you receive this message more clearly? For you, when you think about the Russian Empire, do you think about something huge or something small that the Soviet Union updated?
No. So there are facts. Okay, so the facts are we were some separated small kingdoms.
Okay.
In like in the 12th century, like even in the 12th century. After that, there appeared some first great knights. We call them great knights. Like they were from different cities. It was like Kiev, Knight of the Kiev. It was like Knight of the Moscow later on. And so there was a movement to make everybody like, united. So, well, it was because of external dangers. It was because of German knights that were trying to, intrude and to make us their slaves. I don't know what they were going to do with us. I don't know. So the same stuff was with the Tatars and Mongolian hordes. So everything was like against us. So we decided to unite. And after that, the Rurikovich. So there was the Rurik. It was like the first Russian great knight.
Rurik. It's a word that means knight or something.
Rurik, it's like the name Rurik.
It's a name of a person.
Yeah, so like it's the name of person. I mean, he's half of mythical person because he we are taught in school that he was brought from Vikings actually. So he was like a Viking knight, and he was brought in here to help
Vikings
us.
are so cool, man. They always appear there.
This is the funny thing that Vikings that time they hadn't have all the stuff we had already. So we had baths here, banya. Sauna. So we already have all this, and when you see the historical parchments and papers and everything, so you understand that we were like kind of civilized by the
Yes.
time that we invite him. But anyway, so Rurik was the first guy who was like the beginner of the whole stuff and the whole like dynasty of the knights. And one of the knight was like Ivan the Great and also Ivan Grozny.
Uh-huh.
Ivan
Ivan the
Grozny.
Terrible.
So yes, the terrible. So he was like one of the craziest guys in Russian history, but he also was the guy who just added Siberia, the whole piece of
Wow.
it,
Yeah.
Urals, and like maybe three-fourth of modern Russia was like gathered by him because he fought back for with Tatars, with Mongols. So
Yes.
the thing is, by the 17th, maybe 18th century, we were like huge, really huge. It was like a huge empire already. So Petr I, he was the first proclaimed
Tsar.
emperor.
Exactly.
Emperor.
Yeah.
No, no, no,
An
emperor.
emperor. Uh-huh.
Tsars was
Was
so
Ivan
the
Grozny the first one actually,
Tsar,
right?
yes,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
he was the Tsar. He wasn't the first Tsar. He was
Ah.
Tsar, like
Mm-hmm.
another one. But actually, so after Petr I came to the throne, and he was like also not the first in his dynasty, Romanov. So Romanov,
Yeah.
this is like Romanov from Marvel, you know,
Yeah.
Natasha Romanov.
Yes.
So Romanov, it's like our great family, and they ruled Russia for a long time. So when they just gathered all this lands, everything around us, that was actually the times of Russian Empire at his best, at its best, and we struggled with maybe two main things, two main problems. That's why Soviet Union happened, actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the first thing was really, really long time where there was when there were like peasants that were some kind of slaves. It wasn't slavery actually. We call so it's like Russian normal slavery. Нормально. So
Нормальная
they
slavery.
weren't actually slaves, but they belonged to noble people.
Uh-huh.
And we were like really, really slow pokes with that. So, I mean, we just like Russian noble people, they didn't want to get everybody free, They didn't want
So
to make
rights
everybody.
rights were given to them too late, or
Yes.
Mhm.
So this was the first problem. So, and the second problem was that those people who were given freedom, so those peasants and those workers on the factories, and it was like too late. They weren't educated properly.
Mhm.
So when Lenin and all these guys came to them and say, okay, so everybody will be like equal, 100%. We will just make everybody equal. So all these shitheads who stolen all the goods from you, they will be killed. And it was, like Karl Marx, he wrote about capitalism. So capitalism is bad because capitalists are like people who are stealing
your
money
work.
from
They're stealing your
the
work,
work.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah. But we didn't have this, long-term capitalism relationship between people.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
the people who were given the freedom, they were like maybe 50 years, maybe 30 years. They were in this state. So it's not like in UK or in France or anywhere. So the people were free, like in the first or second generation, and then there came a guy who told them, "Okay, so I know how to help you. I will help you. I will just give you rifles, and you will go and kill all the nobles. That's it. That's the really easy solution."
And also
So
talking about foreign intervention in elections, like with the whole Russiagate thing, there was a big influence from foreign actors into pushing Lenin's revolution into Russia as well. I mean, the Swiss paid for this as well. The Germans were funding him. It was also I'm not attributing the whole Russian revolution to him, but certainly it was some sort of like foreign intervention as well. Because
well,
there was an intention.
actually, it was.
Yeah.
Actually, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, he got the whole money thing, everything. It was like backed with guys. So you remember that time the first World War was happening.
Yeah.
So he easily got all the resources, all the support from everybody. So he didn't expect actually that we will have even a civil war. So civil war we had in Russia, and it was kind of because nobody actually wanted to have this kind of country. So we have a country
Right.
divided, but this was the moment in our history, one of the main moments in our recent history that put us in this situation we have right now. Because a lot of really, I mean, intellectual, really talented people were or killed
Or
or was
suicided.
sent away,
Or
or
suicided.
suicided, or sent away, or went to USA.
Yes.
Some guys like Sikorsky or something like, our a lot of classical musicians, a lot of writers, poets, they just ran away from Russia at that time, and a lot of people were murdered or were in jail. So I mean, by the time Soviet Union happened, Russian Empire was better place than Soviet Union could achieve. I mean, through the whole timeline.
Hmm.
So it was like 1905. You can just research it. In Moscow we have this metro station,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
1905 Street. 16 ton is here,
Yeah.
and on
Yeah.
the street, the
Famous
bar.
club. Yes.
Yes. So 1905, it was like the first revolution. Actually, we had two revolutions, and the first revolution in 1905, it was like against the monarchy. It was like capitalist revolution, socialist slash capitalist. I mean, something like in between. There were like a lot of parties, and we tried to establish some sort of parliament, and it was like a lot of things happening. But by the moment in 1905, we were like the second economy in the world.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
we already built factories. We already began to build all this stuff around. So it was like a huge interest of the economies of all over the world to stop it, because it's really scary when the biggest country becomes the biggest economy.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
everybody's fucked then.
Yeah.
So the easiest way is like just break it. And the same stuff is happening. Like the same stuff happened when the
Spoiler
Soviet Union
alert,
began.
it didn't happen. I
Yes,
mean, it.
the Soviet Union also it could be finished with a civil war, with World War One, with all this like payments, but they didn't expect that we will have such crazy leaders like Stalin and Lenin. They're
and
like crazy.
and also, I think that one of the things, it's hard to piece this together. I guess I'm going to drop you a theory here, and you tell me if you agree. I think that Russians easily group around a leader, and I think that happens historically. I mean, it's like, who the fuck had the idea to move to such an inhospitable land? And and once you were here in this inhospitable land, I once asked this question to a friend, and the answer was hilarious. And he told me, you don't know who was chasing them. When I asked this question, like would somebody consider logical to move to a place like so cold? And the answer was, well, you don't know who was chasing them, man. So that being said, when you live in such a inhospitable land, I think it's kind of natural that you tend to round easily around the leader, but my theory falls easily with the Nordic countries, right? Because I mean, they also live in a very inhospitable land, and they don't have well, I don't know anything about their story, to be honest. But when I see this. The thing is that Russian history nowadays is so distorted by the Soviet Union that a person like me cannot understand what comes from the Empire times, what customs in the present come from the Empire times, and what customs in the present come from the Soviet times. So, for
Mhm.
example, I see this rounding very easily around the leader. Do you think that this has something to do with the climatic circumstances that this country was always facing, or it's more something? Do you have any idea of the origin of something like that?
Do you know about like Star Wars?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I mean, do you remember
a
this
little bit,
Republic
a little bit.
stuff? Republic
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, the Republic.
Yeah, so there were like a lot of Jedi's,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, okay, we're doing great, nice stuff, and like let's unite and let's help people to be, you know. And there were always two Siths at least,
Uh huh. Two evil guys.
two assholes that can change the whole history. So this is stuff about Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, the funny thing is, I understand that Tolkien wrote about Middle Earth and Mordor. It was like Russia in his like geography, and the seed stuff. It's also a little bit Russian style. I mean, it's not like that we are badasses here or some bad people, but we really depend on a single person. We need a leader. Actually, this is funny thing, and the whole history of Russia is also taught in a manner of greatness of single leader,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
of single person. So you can go through the history. I told you already. Ivan the Terrible, he was
Person.
like a great leader.
Yeah.
Petr I, he was a great
Person.
leader. So I cannot tell you about the people who were actually producing this shit. So, like, it's like the same stuff with Russian music. You know this. We have like, oh, this is great singer or somebody or great girl or so. No, nobody knows Russian Rick Rubins. I don't know
Yeah.
Russian George Martins. Nobody
Yeah.
knows them. People know here like faces. So we are all the faces civilization. So we need some face. We need some name, some label. This is really about Russia. You can buy everybody here really easily. I mean, buy not in terms of like for money. Buy, I mean, buy their
Attention. Their attention.
trust, attention.
Yeah.
Yes, just by bringing in some names. This is really easy. Do you
Yeah.
know this guy? Oh yeah, I know this guy. So I am know this guy too. Oh, maybe you're a really great guy in this case. So this is like reputation stuff. This is all interconnected with
I
our
think that
like
in Venezuela we attribute that to we call it tercermundismo. It's like third worldism. But I have noticed when I read Russian literature that there was always some very high regard for the foreigner here. So I don't know what could be the source of this, but it seems like there was a cult of personality, you know, that deposited a lot of value on the status of a person without you even knowing exactly what they have done or something like that. It's just like, oh, I realized this so much. I only touch. I was tuning drum kits for Zenfira, and I became the Zenfira guy. It was so strange. Like, I mean, and the job is so minor and nothing really amazing. I mean, of it, and then it just and I had the double whammy. It was really weird from my side because I saw it happening in my own face. It was really weird. I had the double whammy of being a foreigner and having done that, and I saw all these doors opening out of nowhere. And well, of course, good for me, but I'm really a meritocratical person, so I was just thinking like, that's kind of not cool, that things happen like that. I don't know. In England, things are less like that. In America, things are less like that. In Venezuela, things are super like that. So I don't know if it's something about being underdeveloped and looking outwards, or maybe you said something pretty interesting. It could be also about the desire of flashiness, that you attribute to the quality of the Russian mind, like just like gold and shiny things.
you can just add some facts also, some things to think about. So, as you told in the beginning, we are really big country.
Yeah.
So, could you imagine that somebody brought in the really big country to do something?
Yeah.
Automatically, he's like, whoa, man, our country is so big. We have so much land, so much talent, so much people. But you were brought in to do
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
That means that you are absolutely 100% better than everybody around. Like the logic is simple. You just could you understand it? So I mean, we have a lot of stuff going on, and people going on. So we'll have a lot of territory. So
Cheers.
after all, you bring somebody in to fix your fucking, I don't know, pipes, like, oh, that guy came from. The second thing is that we are literally were slower in our development than all other countries because of external dangers.
And
We
also
had
the size,
resources.
right? Also the size.
So because of the size, because of the resources, we already have. We always had to defend ourselves. Defense really, really much. I mean, yeah, we also no saints there. I mean, we also made some stuff to grab others' territories, and I mean, we had a lot of stuff going on, but mainly we had to defend ourselves. And like Germans and Lithuanians and all these guys and Poland, Rech Pospolita it was called at that time,
Mm-hmm.
our neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, trying to get into Russia. I mean, like 3 times a year, they were always trying to penetrate our defenses and to grab all the girls and all the furs. I mean, it was also Russian, like richness. So I mean, so when you're trying to defend yourself, you begin to understand that conservatism in your lifestyle
Yes.
and well-built buildings and big walls and everything. This is something of like a value in your life. So big walls, big houses. I mean, everything is massive. Everything is strong. Like strongholds is
Yes.
everywhere. This is the first thing. The second thing, you begin to value the people who could do this for you
Right.
because you have no
Right.
time for that. You have no
Absolutely.
time for research. So you bring in people from Italy, from Germany, from UK, from everywhere, and ask them and pay them with gold, with
But
like with
why?
gems.
Why do you think there were no Russians who could do those jobs that the people you were bringing from Italy could do, or were they? I mean, or maybe.
I can give you a simple stuff that the guy who built Saint Basil's,
Hmm. Yes.
he was like, his eyes were like burned out, that he couldn't repeat this
Yeah.
success once again. So I
Yeah.
mean, it was like barbaric, society a little bit. So they were cruel rulers, and they were a little bit stupid. I mean, I understand now when I read historical books, they were like stupid about peaceful life. They were really smart about war and about how to like make something victorious, but a little bit stupid when it was about culture, about reading, about this stuff. So we had to invite people to reassemble and to categorize our alphabet, because we had two different languages at that time, and also it was like a huge problem. So we had, Greek language for church.
Ah, yeah. I do
Actually,
know.
yeah, for a long time. And we had Russian alphabet. So we brought people here, Kirill and Mefodi, the two guys who have a monument on the Krasnaya Ploshchad, on
Yes.
the Red Square, and they had to reinvent the whole alphabet, everything. So they made our first simple alphabet, and it was like a lot of stuff like that. So it was always it was always not the right time to begin learning, to begin like learning stuff. So, and the second thing, or third, I don't know, or maybe
Maybe
fifth,
for 45th.
so the 45th thing, yeah. So, and the 45th thing is that we have seasons. I mean, seasons. People new say they don't understand what Russian seasons are, and people all around the
And
globe,
in
they think
Europe,
that
man.
we think that they think that we have like a Russian winter, maybe. Okay, so what if Russian winter? So we can shoot movies when we are in like fucking Russia without any headgear, without any shapka, without
Yeah.
any hat.
Yeah. Any hat.
It's
Yeah.
so funny. This is so funny. Just go to the Siberia and try to walk
I
around like
remember as soon as I moved here, I went to check my car, and the mechanic asked me, "Will you change the tires?" And I said, "No, these are winters." And he said, "Это европейские. These are European tires." Like, what the fuck?
yes, yes. So you just need to understand that people who live in Finland or Canada, the countries that have image of wintry
Yeah.
countries, little bit more southern in their like stuff, and Finland and Norway, they have this Gulf Stream stuff going on
Yes.
nearby. So I mean, Russia is like a place where you can have like Oymyakon. This is the place in Russia, the
Hmm.
city called Oymyakon,
Okay.
and they have like minus 73 degrees in Celsius sometimes, like minus fucking 73. So when you're talking about Russian winter, you just can't imagine the
Yeah.
the amount of winterness. And when I was on my gig, there's a city called
Okay.
Severodvinsk, the beautiful name.
Okay.
uh, so it's like northern Dwina is like something of a river, so Severodvinsk. And they built nuclear uh, submarines there.
Okay.
So this is Russian nuclear submarines city. It's closed city. Nobody knows about that, kinda. So, but you can find it on the Google Maps. So
Yes.
anyway, Severodvinsk, uh, and it was like it's in the north. It's northern than Saint Petersburg. It's like really north. The main thing that you will find there, and it was like the thing, because I laughed at Game of Thrones when they showed us this northern north of the north. and you can like king of the north and north. Okay, so you go to Severodvinsk, and you understand if you will go outside without anything on your head, the wind, not the temperature itself, but this cold fucking wind will blow the whole your brain out of your ear. You know, like this is so strong. This is so cold. It's like I don't know how to compare it with somebody in my life. I mean,
Yeah.
and this is the thing when they also, for some reason, I don't know, they built the whole city that it forms the absolute perfect thing to speed the
The
wind up.
winds.
So the wind is not
Oh
only
man.
like north, and it's really fast because of the building structure. So I mean, everything is like built perfectly. That wind is like it's really strong. I've never had heard in my life the wind so strong
That's
in the
crazy.
sound. I mean, it's like you can do this without synthesizer. Actually, in your studio, you can imagine that. So it was like crazy, and we always also I remember that thing that we were like, okay, so we came there for the gig. We decided to play at the club. It was like electronic music duo. We made this live shows. I brought with myself really expensive stuff to make the gig, synthesizers, some computers, interfaces. So, and we understood that point, that we will not be able to live there without any alcohol. I mean, this is the point.
Yes, I was talking about this earlier. Yeah.
So yeah, so we understand that alcohol there is like not something of pleasure, but some survival kit. Like basically
You need to
because
put it in
it's
your
also
blood. Yeah.
it's really bad idea to drink alcohol actually in the cold weather because it gets your
Yeah.
immune system
Yeah.
down. So this is like not a good idea. But anyway, it's like little bit helps you to overcome this horrible blizzards and all this,
Yeah,
bizarre
so
stuff.
that the for sure that the weather. I mean, when you analyze your own country, it is obvious that the weather forms a really big part of the factors that explain how things turn out. I mean, it's just like people cannot understand it until they come here. I remember being in Novosibirsk, which is nothing so extreme. It's more extreme than any German city or something, but it's not Norilsk or something like that. And I mean, I've seen a parking lot, which there were no cars in, and it had a wall, and all the parking lot was covered of snow till to the roof. I mean, it was maybe like a 5 meter tall. It's some things that I have never seen, and people cannot understand this until they come. And the other thing, I always say this to so people can understand the size of this place. When I made the big tour I made around the country, which went all the way to Vladivostok, there was a point when the first jump we did was from Moscow to Omsk.
Mhm.
And then so that is equivalent, like if you fly in the other direction from Moscow to the other side, you will land something like 200 kilometers in the Atlantic after you pass England.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
that's all the way from here to there. It's full of Russian cities. And then we took another airplane which was from Omsk to Chelyabinsk, and that's kind of like flying almost all the way to the coast of in front of the coast of New York. And then we took another flight which was from Chelyabinsk to Vladivostok, which is kind of like you land a little bit maybe in Boston, something like that. So all the way from Moscow to Boston, if you do it on the other way, it's full of Russian cities, Russian railways, Russian roads. This really shocked me. This was the moment when I understood that whatever you want to say about this place, it's absolutely remarkable that it's functioning. Actually, it's absolutely remarkable that it works, because it in some way it does. And the level of complexity of running such an infrastructure project, and this thing is connected since the Trans-Siberian Railway, which was completed in the end of the 19th century. Which, by the way, I once heard a really interesting theory that most likely one of the reasons as well for the for the Soviet Revolution to have happened here is because there are two factors that combine really close, three factors, which is the construction of St. Petersburg, which was just done in a snap, the construction of the Trans-Siberian Railway, and the First World War together. I mean, this was so much death. And this country has seen so much death. And this brings me to a question. Do you see in modern culture evidence that this country learned from all this death?
No.
No, that's worrying. That's
I
worrying.
mean, the problem is that we worship death.
Hmm. Tell me more
Could you
about that. Yeah.
imagine it? I'm telling this like, okay, so let's see some funny facts. In the center of the Moscow, there lies a mummy, like 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 of Lenin, actually,
Yeah, you're
the dead body of Lenin. It lies like, and it's like the main attraction on the Red Square. We are kissing in Orthodox churches the remains of the people under the black glass. You know this?
yes,
Like
yes, yes,
we
yes.
call it mochi.
Explain it
So yeah.
anyways, because I don't think many people that will hear this will don't know
Oh yeah. So in Orthodox,
tradition.
kind kind of stuff. So in our church, it's like a really common stuff to bring in some remains of dead people that were saint actually for
Hmm.
some reason, not some artifact,
The
not
relics.
some
It's called in
well,
English.
so it's like relics, but these are actually parts of dead
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Finger, the leg, the something. So we worship that. We also worship death. I mean, okay, let's say it also. We lost 27 million people in World War II.
That's crazy.
27 million people. Every year, Russia is one of the countries that on the main May 9th,
Yeah,
9th of the May,
yeah.
we're just like celebrating the shit out of that. I mean, like, yay, we're super dope. Yeah, this is the most important day in our country. I mean, actually.
Do
So
you think that
I
this
don't
should stop, like the 9th of May parade, or are you
know.
okay with? Yeah. Hmm.
I think that they should to make this day, like, I mean, respectful for the memory of people who
Yes.
we lost. It should be, if it's parade, it shouldn't be military parade. Actually, that's what I'm not okay with.
Yeah.
Why do you want to show once again the whole world that you can kill somebody? Just show what you can build. Show that you can help the world with. I mean, I don't like this militaristic stuff going on in the USA also, and I don't like this in Russia. I think that these resources that we are just spending to make people able to kill each other. This is ridiculous now. I mean, we're spending too much money on that. We just need to refocus our like minds to make this world more peaceful, beautiful, and easy to live in. But this is the thing. So I mean, I understand USA people. USA was like fucking earning money on war the whole history. I mean, they were sponsoring Hitler, they were sponsoring Soviet Union. It was like just paying checks for everybody who want to kill each other. They're paying people for like they're giving weapons to the Eastern countries. They doing this. I mean, you know this.
Yeah.
They just like they continue to make new weapons. I mean, this is like their story. So okay, I understand them. Why do we need this? I mean, actually, Russia lost the Cold War. We were no, Soviet Union. They lost the Cold War. We like okay, so we are not Soviet Union anymore. We are Russia. So these people in government they decided okay, we are Russia now, so we need to do more powerful nuclear weapon that we will be like winning this time. I mean, this is insane, and they are just doing and doing more and more.
But would you like? I mean, look. I understand your point, but I also see the value of Russia being independent. Do you see the value on that, or do you think that Russia should synchronize with the rest of the world and stop
Okay,
seeking for its own identity?
let's try to find some independent, really independent countries. Can we do this? Actually, independent from what? Let's say
America, it's the only one really.
America. Okay, so let's say America. Uh, if you will move out of America, their ability to print money without any risk.
Yeah, no, sure, sure. I understand your point, but
If
for
you
example,
remove
this is
if you
easier.
remove
Sorry to interrupt you. This is easier to say if you're not Venezuelan. When you're Venezuelan, not Venezuelan, sorry, but there are countries that were empires before, and countries that were not empires never, and to more manipulate them is super easier. So maybe the word independent is not correct, but you know, there are some countries, there are some people that are a little bit more masters of their own destiny. There are some countries that are a little bit more masters of their own destiny, like Germany is more master of its own destiny than Panama, for example. And so, because when I moved here, I was super anti-militaristic, and I mean, I obviously don't like war and things like that, but I kind of got to the point where I understood that it is important that Russia can in a certain way, put a foot sometimes, just like, hey,
Okay,
look,
I'll just help you with that. I mean,
yeah,
in one little point, the guy who can hack into your system now is the most
it's the most
dangerous
powerful.
weapon.
Yeah, exactly.
So these like childish toys, like
Absolutely,
nuclear
yeah.
weapons or something, nobody now will destroy any infrastructure. So like viruses, something like electronic damage, EMPs, all this shit, it can destroy the country in no like time now, because we are all dependent on the technology now. We are dependent on GPSs, 4G. So what's the point
No,
to
for
build something
hardware. Yeah.
of no usefulness? I mean, you can just invest in education and raise like 100 genius scientists who will build some nanobots that will disassemble the weapon. That's it. You're doing something like this now. There's like 21st century, and this stuff about we. Okay, we can build now some swords and armor and put people on horses. Okay, so go and defend our country. This makes no sense now.
I
I
will.
can see
I will
this is
go. Sorry, carry on,
okay.
carry on, please, please.
I mean, the simple virus now
Yeah.
put everybody in their homes. You can do this,
Dude,
easily. It was
what
like
happened is so
virus.
crazy.
I think it was like human made in China.
I also think so.
So it was like there is a big chance that it was human made in Wuhan laboratory.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they have laboratory that. For some circumstances, it's like really interesting. They were like researching these viruses of bats.
Yes.
So this was the point. And I understand that, okay, so they built this virus. What other viruses they have there? What
No.
viruses do we have in our laboratories?
Yes.
What viruses do have USA? Nobody knows. Those people, those jerks who like trying to, rule the world, actually what they're doing, they are trying to overcompensate their fear of death, actually, by building more and more devastating stuff because they are afraid that somebody will kill them. I mean, this is really interesting. I mean, this is overcompensation, actually.
Yeah.
So it's like you can buy a really big car, you can you can buy a really big yacht, you can buy a really big house, or you can invent some crazy ass shit virus with nuclear powers. I don't know, something that will explode the whole universe.
Yes.
So like
I will ask you a next question. I want to tell you a story. The next question is I want to hear your opinion on the state of Russian industry and science. But we will go there. I just want to tell you this anecdote in total synchronicity with what you're saying. I read this fascinating. This is all documented and it's easy to find. This fascinating technological weapon that the government of Israel developed. And it was a cyber attack that was aimed at Iran. It has happened a couple of years ago. So look at how it worked. If you put a pen drive with this with this program inside and you connect it to a computer, it copies itself automatically to any computer. And so as soon as it's copied inside the computer, it tries to go out to the ports, like the printer port, the USB port. And so the next thing it does is to jump into any next device it can jump. And and as soon as it lands in another device, it stays on a port. It stays on it until it can go out on another port. And the goal was to reach to a specific kind of very primitive device, which is a centrifuge, a device that is just making something spin. Huh? And once it reached that kind of centrifuge, spoiler alert, those are the centrifuges that keep the nuclear facilities at the correct temperature. So once it reached that centrifuge, it started beaming back fake data of what the of what the centrifuge was doing, and it started changing the rotational speed to fry the facilities, the the nuclear facilities of Iran. And it actually happened. It was proved and found. So I guess that obviously that's where warfare is going, and that's I mean that can cause so much more damage than a rocket or something like that. But I want to know, I want to really like I mean, do you think that Russia now, in terms of industry, and because whenever I speak with people, I get very irritated when they tell me Russia is like Venezuela nowadays, and I'm like, listen, I love Venezuela, but that's really not something that one could say. And I try to say that in my imagination, this country is maybe more powerful. I'm not talking about military. I'm talking about industry. Than people believe. Can you destroy or support this idea that I have in terms of how do you see the current economy and the current industry and sciences of the country?
The most dangerous thing now for the whole world, if Russian people who are responsible for industry, the rich people, will stop stealing, because it's soon it will happen. So we will have the growth, and
Yay!
that will be like something like really, really,
That's great.
dangerous for the people, because we have a lot of people, a lot of bright minds, a lot of good ideas, a lot of good concepts. Like half of the technological stuff in military now, it's at this time, by this point, 2020, yeah, it's still Soviet Union researches.
Hmm.
So we didn't even do that stuff. I mean, and we continue developing new. So I think that in some points, in some cases, uh, um, in some directions, in some branches of all this stuff happening, we are really, really good at something. There are a lot of stuff we are good at. It's not about television or about musical instruments, but we have also something going on there.
Yes, I
The
want to talk about
Russian
that later. Yeah,
microphones. I'm talking in Soyuz microphone right
yeah.
now.
Hmm.
You can't see it, but it's all also
It's
there.
there in orbit.
So I mean, we're doing stuff. We're doing actually good stuff, and when we are like doing it sincerely and with effort, it always come out something beautiful and really helpful and really working. And I think that the most important thing there is that our technology, our knowledge base, everything, it's just blocked by these stealing mechanisms, by corruption. That's the only thing that stop us from
Were
something.
Russians always corrupt, like in the Empire times? Is it something that developed because of the scarcity that the Soviet Union created, or it was something that is in the character of the Russian people?
Uh, it was always there. I mean, it's not the first government or the first type of our country or organization that's corrupt. I mean, this corruption it comes from all those things we were talking about. This is like you're trying. It's people seeing corruption in Russia something like of corruption in China, for example,
Hmm.
where people like, okay, so these are 100,000 people who can be executed. Corruption in Russia is family based. Everybody are brothers, sisters, husbands. So and people are value family very, very on a high amount. So I mean, it's like mafia, some sort of that. I mean, and this you cannot kill the whole family. You cannot kill, the whole family because of somebody was doing something wrong. Or and also it's like a common thing to be corrupted on the really primitive level of police
Yeah,
or somebody in the like in some place where they giving your passports or something. So this is widespread thing. It can be fixed by removing 3 people from the government or even
of
100
course,
people
it's
from the government.
widespread. It's widespread.
So yeah, you need to remove it from the head. And the only way to do this, as I understand, is to give people more profit from non-stealing. So when you will give them the opportunity to earn more if you are not stealing. So how it should be made or organized, nobody can understand now, actually. So I don't know the people who can do this for the other people just like to explain them. So okay, so you will not steal. So 2 years from this moment, we will everybody earn the 10th time, more money than you were going to steal. So I mean, nobody doing this. Nobody educates people. They do not understand that if they will stop doing this and stop doing some criminal stuff and some, and also this is the thing, why we are so corrupted. The laws in Russia, they are complicated as hell,
Hmm.
and they do not use this stuff when you can fix the law quickly if it's not working. When we have the law that's not working, they're doing it more like worse. I mean, you're getting absolutely not working law instead of not working. And it's never about making law lighter or more easier. So we have a lot of laws, we have a lot of documents, we have a lot of bureaucracy. So it just becomes more and more
Do you think
of.
that do you think that there is a connection between how Russian language is and this complexity of the legal system? I don't know if this question is easy to answer or if it's possible to answer.
Yes, of course. And we have three different Russian languages, three at least. So one of them is used in literature, and it's beautiful. It's like, oh, beautiful Russian language. The second one we're using streetwise, so it's street language. And we have a little bit separated from the literature language. So, I mean, Russian journalists and Russian writers, they actually use really pure form of Russian language. It's really beautiful written. It's organized well. It's always not so emotional, but it's like, okay, so this is fiction language. Also, we have this kind of language on the streets. So with all these swear words and everything, you can say about everything huйня, and it's
Yeah.
like works like that. So
Yeah.
like, this is shit, this is shit, this is shit. So it's so like that. And we also have this bureaucracy language, and this is the third beast that if you will
So hard.
master, you will earn the money in Russia.
Yeah.
So if you don't know
Fuck.
this, when you read Russian, like this is also a comparison that maybe people will find really easy to understand. When you get a Russian contract with a label, record label, and it's like small indie record label in Russia, like something like these, like small. I mean, 300 people buy their merch. I don't know, merchandise. Yeah,
The history.
yeah. So you will have this thickness of paper in your head that you need to sign on every page, and there will be like point one dot a dot point one sub, like article. So you need to do this, otherwise you will get this. So da, 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 da. And it will be like a mess. And all the guys who work with the law, with the rights in Russia, they are like really nerds. They need to dig it so deep to understand every point of that. That's why we have still didn't win the war over piracy in Russia.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. It's
Yeah.
actually difficult. You need to know the laws, and you need to exploit the laws. You need to make them work for you, not against you.
Yeah.
It's really difficult.
How?
So-
sorry.
So yeah, so that's why the language really affects us. I mean, the language is not the most useful and a friendly one to even for Russians to solve the problems.
When you are a foreigner, man, when you're a foreigner, you have to pass a test of Russian law. And imagine,
Okay.
I mean, when I went to make this test, I have to do it like 4 times. I mean, it was like 3,000 rolls every time. And it was just impossible for me to get any word. It was just
The thing is that the half of the people I know who were in schools or in universities in Russia, they actually do not understand their thing. They do not understand it. They
Yeah.
just learn it letter by letter,
exactly,
like monkeys.
exactly.
So that's how they operate. I mean, a lot of people around me.
Yeah, that's
This is really surprising stuff. But when you read, like any book on mixing, on mastering, or something like musicals wise, you read the book and you can understand the man, because he is trying to operate the things that everybody will understand. So he tries to spread and share the knowledge. When you read Russian books on acoustics or something, it will be like 3, 4, like 3, 5 I don't know, like 70% of the book will be pure physics and this weird bureaucracy language. And the other 20% of the book will be like, okay, so, acoustics is very important. So be really like good one and learn this shit. And then you will have this like formula. Everything is like in the physics language, little Russian words that means nothing to you, and it will be all the time
So
the same
it's
stuff.
it seems like things are, because there was not a, I think that the 70 years of Soviet Union certainly have a massive impact in how things are here in the present. And one of the things that I meditate a lot is that there is not a developed media culture here. It's maybe just now starting to emerge, because I mean there was no practice. People were just not really. I mean, I don't want to by any chance ignore the fact, by any means ignore the fact that there were amazing movies here, of course, and amazing TV programs here. No questions about that. But when you centralize everything, and you give it whole a direction from the government, it's very different than when you just let a bunch of people out there to do their thing, and then they do their thing, and it just produces a different result. And so I think that there is a difficulty here. People don't know how to communicate their own ideas. It happens a lot. It happens a lot when I work with people. It's just incredible. It's like, what do you want me to do? And then, for example, there is not a good culture of how do you write a good work email. How do you write something that everybody could understand? Is it something that it's a culture shock in between me and the country and we just don't understand each other? Or do you think that people have here difficulty to transmit ideas because that seems to be what you're saying, in a very, to the point fashion?
Because of the bureaucracy and because
Mm-hmm.
of all this corruption, people here also trying to communicate really, without any consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So they are afraid of
Oh
consequences.
man,
So
man,
when they are
that
afraid
is
of
so
consequences, you
interesting
can
what you're
imagine.
saying,
So it's like it's a hypocrisy, and this, like, I mean, everybody's trying to
dude.
be quiet for this amount of time. Then
Yes,
you tell them, okay, so it will not work. The next letter you will have, they're like, fuck you. So I mean, it will be like, a good evening, Mr. Well Harris. I would like you to do this for me. And you will tell them, no, it will not work. And the third letter will be from them, fuck you. So,
yeah,
I mean, this is the thing we have in the communication. I mean, like, this is a huge gap from this official bureaucracy language that everybody trying, like, at least they're trying to begin with that. So, okay, so dear Mr. or Madam, all this shit, happening. I mean, I was studying this in school, how to communicate in English. I mean, everything remained the same. I mean, 20 years ago, it was like this genre kind of stuff, and now it remains the same stuff. In Russia, it's not like that. I mean, it's good day, sir. I'd like to ask you for this, and this. You tell them, no, man, it will not work. And the third letter also can be why. So why? You dare to say me no? I mean, something like this. I mean, people, they do not actually understand the borders and
yes,
this. The politeness is also in Russia. It's not this. I mean, we are polite people and we are like gentle people for
yes.
some
People don't
reason.
expect
Also,
that. People from abroad don't expect that. By the way.
but I understand that. But this is really funny thing that this politeness and this gentleness, it is the thing that came from Soviet Union actually.
Yes,
Because a lot of people here was like grandsons and granddaughters of simple peasants or simple guys from all over the country, and they have learned something from the school. But actually, inside of them, there is no inner politeness. They are just barbarians, actually, for some reason.
barbarian
And those,
bureaucrats. Barbarian
yes, and
bureaucrats.
this kind of people, they're like jumping in some serious processes because also because of corruption, they could be anywhere. So you can find people who have no education, no skills, nothing, and they're like huge people in the government or huge people somewhere in media. So the like yesterday, it was like just a kid. He's like 19 years old, and he is already some sort of program director on radio station, for example. I don't know, something
Yeah,
like this.
yeah,
And you'd begin to communicate with them. and they have no ability and no understanding of how the things are done actually, but they know how to be offended by your no, because they was raised, they were raised in the situation where nobody told them that, no man, we will not do this, or it will be costing like two times that you want to. I mean, people are really afraid to talk about money in Russia. Did you notice that?
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
when you discuss a price for something, people are like, "Oh man, I mean, I don't know, but
And people don't
the
come with
price."
you. It's so amazing. People don't come with you like straight to that point. It's kind of like you have to beg for that part of the conversation to appear somehow. It's like whenever
Yes,
I want to engage with somebody to work, it's like, hi, here's how much I'm gonna pay you. Do you like that price? Okay, now I will tell you what I want you to do. And
yeah,
here it just starts
yeah.
like, all right, look, can you please do all of this for tomorrow? Thanks. And then you're like, bye, okay. And then you have to send an email 1 hour later, like, are you gonna pay me? Like,
So yeah, so the money is the big problem. When you're talking about money, it's the big problem. The second big problem is
I
when
need to
you're
ask a
talking.
question. Sorry,
Yeah.
carry on. But just bear in
So
mind.
the last thing I wanted to
Mhm.
tell you, when you, it's always the situation. You know this funny video about the seven red lines that are transparent and the parallel. So this is like a briefing when there are a lot of people sitting over there, and there's a designer guy
Mhm.
and specialist. It's called specialist,
Mhm.
and they're talking to him. Okay, so we need seven parallel straight lines without any crosses, transparent. So he's like fucking seven lines parallel. Like what? So did you see this?
No,
No,
no, no. I
it's
have
funny.
never seen it.
Okay, so I'll send you a link. So
Yeah.
this is the thing. So when you're asking the people what they want, and they are really, really often people from Russia, they're like afraid to look stupid. So they're
Yes.
like overconfident in the first step. So step one, they're asking you for some favors. And they're like, okay, so we would like you to make this and this, like that and like that, and we will give you some like reference material or something. And then you begin to ask them questions. So this is the most scary moment for them, because actually they don't know what they want,
Yes.
how they want it, and what to answer you. And they begin to use some words that they learned from somewhere to explain this, in the way that you are the stupid one. So you're asking them the questions,
That's so
how do
true.
I need to do this? And they are, no, man, this is like I told you that you're the stupid. So this is the funny thing, and happens a lot of with people who didn't have any international experience. I find it really funny, because when you work with the people who are on international market, or they have some international people around them, or this is a big company from around the globe, so everything is like ping pong. You're doing the stuff, they're answering you. You're doing the stuff, they're answering you. In this case, mainly you just face the fact that people are not comfortable to talk about the money, so the value of your work, and the second one about their wishes, what they want, what about they like real aims, real stuff. They trying just not to be stupid. I mean, this is really ridiculous. I
Yes.
mean,
I attribute all of this to the distortion that the Soviet Union brings to the equation, and that was a question I wanted to ask, and the question comes kind of twofold. I will start by the second question. The second question is, were people in the Soviet Union afraid because their boss were going to rat them out with the authorities? Like, I mean, and the answer is yes, right?
mhm.
And the second question is, I mean, we're going to talk a lot about that because I think that's where all of this is originated. I mean, people are. This was passed down through the generations by fathers who were kind of instructing their sons, like, listen, you cannot be seen as ignorant or stupid, because that may end up of you and that may end up with you being transferred to Norilsk and being locked into some place there that you don't want to go. Is this a
Little bit simpler,
reasonable
man.
idea?
Little bit simpler. If you will be stupid, you will go to the army. And if you go
Yeah,
to the army, your life is broken. That's
yeah,
the thing. So that's every little kid of male. gender in Russia, hear it from his childhood. If you will be stupid, you go to army and your life will
And so
end.
kid is thinking, I can't look stupid, can't look stupid, can't look
Or
stupid,
the
can't look
other
stupid.
thing, the military people, they tell, why do you need to study? Just go to the army,
Нормально
serve
там.
your mother Russia. That's it. So they're like two polar things. And the people from army, they go to the police. They going to like the half of the people in Russia. I mean, nearly who works for the government. They come from army, and there's just and they know how to fit in this system. It's vertical. It's like the Russian government is like militaristic system.
yeah.
It's like the general, and they give orders, and everybody just doing what they are told to do. And the whole people in the government, came from army or from some FSB, KGB stuff, or like KGB. So that's why. And the second part of the people who don't want to have anything with that, they're just trying every kid to get the higher education, to just go as everybody go to the higher education, just have a diploma. And after that, when you will be like 25 years old, you can start to think about what you're going to do in your life. But go to the job.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I find this super interesting. I mean, this fact of, and I find it so clearly how the responsibilities. And I'm still talking about this being afraid that your job is gonna land you in jail. I mean, how the responsibilities are thrown between one another. People are afraid to assume their own responsibility, to face things front up. I mean, it's so.
That's why nobody wants to be responsible in
And
Russia.
you know what? It
This is
sucks. It sucks to be me in that kind of circumstance because I'm always the guy who's like, okay, I'll go and take the responsibility. Bam. And I'm the. You know what's really crazy, man? Like, so many times I have seen my crew of people sending me to sort a problem, and I don't even speak the fucking language. And then I arrive to a situation where I have to solve the problem, and I'm like, hi, I don't
that's
know
your
what I need to do.
this is your trait, man. You're not speaking Russia. This is a good thing in
Right,
Russia.
right,
Because
right,
if you're
right.
not speaking Russia, everybody else will think that they are stupid. So
Yeah,
that's why they will try to help you. Because at
yeah,
least this way they will not be stupid.
yeah,
You see,
exactly.
this is like works like so easy.
Funny, luckily for me, I mean, I just don't have this kind of. I rather sort the problem than complain about it. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, all right, well, whenever I was always the guy who was facing the responsibilities and consequences, and I always thought that the people who think they were getting away with it by sending me to do it are the real ones who lose because I'm the one who is getting the experience of solving the problem, and that really helps.
No, 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 no. I mean, from time to time, I even find myself. It was like 2 or 3 times in my life when I was like in a situation when people were trying to ask me something, and I answered them in English,
Right, right, yeah, it just
just
helps a
not to
little bit,
have
huh?
anything with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Because people in Russia, they always trying to find somebody else to solve their problems. This is the thing. Do you have any money? Do you have any matches? Do you have any cigarettes? Do you have any this? Do you have any free tickets to the party? Do you have any friends? Do you have anything? So like I'm full of that. I mean, so there's also no borders in it. I mean, my private messages are like a mess. People can just.
they
I
ask you a lot of
saw you.
things, yeah.
Yeah, I saw you yesterday doing some webinar for education. So could you listen to my song, answer me some questions about it, and give me some feedback? And can I ask you to make me something something, and maybe you can do a remix for me or so? I mean, like, okay, this is
Man,
the one thing.
I have such a funny story. Carry on. I'll tell it after. I have such a funny story to say.
And the opposite, yeah. If you will ask somebody, you can also be like well perceived like a jerk, even if you will be like polite and you ask everything, just step by step without any harsh movements, without any stuff. And the other thing is that if you will ask somebody to do this something for you, in the end it will be like you will do this for the person you asked, just instead of him. I mean, you ask somebody, just could you write me some letter or something or some press release or anything. They will send you back something made like in 5 minutes after 2 weeks of doing nothing. I mean,
Yeah,
and you will be like, okay, so you write that instead of them, and you will be in the end the jerk. because you took the responsibility, you made their
That's
job
true.
better than them, so that's why you're an asshole. So I mean, this is really, really widespread, and you can't do anything with that. I mean, this is like okay situation. It's normal now. It's the same stuff we're talking about. So I mean, but I see that you were talking in the beginning about 10 years perspective. So in the last 10 years,
Yeah.
everything begin to shift from that. I mean, I meet more and more people who are more experienced, more responsible, more initiative. So IMI guys who making this
Yes.
IMI Institute, for example. So I mean, more and more people are coming
I'm
into
gonna make
their
a
sense.
little pause here for anybody who is not from Russia. There is a group of people who made something called the Institute of the Musical Initiative, and they're pushing our scene very hard. And look at the name. I mean, it has like the musical initiative. So what Andrei is trying to say is that there's more people that are proactive and less reactive. Sorry, man. Carry
Yeah,
on. Yeah.
yeah. So and this is these are young people. I mean, they are under 40, and people who are a little bit older, they were living more life, more part of their lives in USSR.
Yeah.
So they more deeply connected with USSR, and they are more deeply connected with that kind of mind structure.
Sometimes my wife, especially when we were together and we were getting to know each other, and she was getting a lot of culture shocks from the West and stuff, and my wife would say something like, "Oh fuck, the Soviet Union fucked everything." Do you have a similar reaction sometimes, or are you more compassionate towards the Soviet Union?
No, I mean, no, no. Soviet Union was a place uh, and the country and the ideology. It was harmless in many, 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 many ways. I mean, people now are trying to demonize it. It's not the right way. I mean, if the simplest thing is just check out the Soviet movies. I mean, the Soviet movies was all
And
about the
cartoons.
friendship, the pure love, without any drugs, without any alcohol, without anything. I mean, it wasn't. It was without anything, not because there were no drugs in Russia or no sex in Russia. No, it was like because this is not interesting, not pure, not beautiful. The Soviet Union was really, really, like a little bit childish in that.
Yes.
Like North Korea now, you see North Korea, it's like North Korea. It had a lot of troubles, and this is like crazy place. But in some way, they're like naive, like
You know,
like something.
because everything can go out of balance, including compassion. And this kind of initiatives, governmental initiatives, are compassion go to the extreme. It's like to the point if you overprotect your child, then it cannot fend for itself. And
So
so
yeah,
it's
so
the
in
all
Soviet
mother
Union,
state.
and that was like the part of it. The second part of Soviet Union that was good. It was science, because there were a lot of things happening around the world, but only two countries in 20th centuries made the everything happened. I mean, it was like USA and Soviet Union in the beginning, then Japan and Germany and everybody just like once
Catch
again
up. Yeah.
catched up. But it was like Germany who made a lot of stuff before and in the time of the Second World War. But anyway, we could manage to build their rockets actually, and we could manage to put men in the space and everything. I mean, the Soviet Union made a lot of stuff, great stuff for the whole civilization, I think. And I think that you cannot also blame Soviet Union for being, like irresponsible or being like an aggressive place. I remember my childhood after the Soviet Union fell apart. I wasn't afraid to go outside to play with my friends, and my parents were okay with that. I mean, it was like a chilled atmosphere there. So people were like going outside, doing everything they want. There were no dangers in
Yeah.
in such big amount of that for children, for like weak people. It wasn't there were not so many, like people who were actually into doing crimes, because Russian jails were like the worst place in the world. So
Yes.
everybody was afraid to do something wrong, actually. So afraid, not because it was like okay, I'm afraid because I will not gain getting something, or no, they were afraid because they knew that if they will go to jail, actually they can end up dead, being dead, just dead. So
Yeah.
this is, I mean, it's not like black and white. So Soviet Union, I think it made a lot of good things for people, and the worst part of it, how it ended, because when it ended, a lot of people were broke in terms of economy, in terms of their, like uh, dreams. So they wanted to build something better, and they wanted to continue, and they wanted to do something like, not communism, but at least some socialism. But there were a lot of people who were affected by that, and I think that Soviet Union was kind of like, escapism project, and we don't know if it wasn't Soviet Union, could we win the war? Because I think the only
Possibly
way to
not.
organize people, to make them crazy about some ideology, and to make harsh decisions like Stalin did. Because I mean, it's like
There
27
is
million
a
people
there is a
who dead because of the, like crazy people
yes.
about that. It was like the core of Soviet Union to be crazy about some ideals. I mean,
There is a super interesting historical artifact which is super connected to our professions, as we're both producers of sound. Hitler was once in Finland and was having a meeting with a guy called Himmler, if I'm not mistaken, and they were discussing the information that had arrived to them through the intelligence about this was before them invading Russia, and the information from the German intelligence was reporting to them how many tanks Russia had.
yeah,
And the sound engineer, who was a bit of a punk guy back then, just put the thing to record secretly, and he obtained the tape and stole it. And it's on YouTube, man. It's the only time you will hear Hitler speaking outside of a speech. And he's like, you can hear his jaw dropping, saying like, 10,000 tanks. How is possible that they have 10,000 tanks? Like, without a centralized, organized government, that I'm just supporting what you're saying. I mean, it would have been impossible to. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Soviet Union personally. I mean, I respect it entirely. I have this feeling, which is that when my friends in Venezuela ask me how is everything there, and they ask me about the Soviet Union, I always say, look, I have the feeling that people here have the following motto, which is, glad we tried, glad we're not trying anymore. And that's kind of,
something like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of where I
partially
think the
I agree
whole,
with that.
yeah, it's
Partially, I agree with that.
because
But
it takes heroism to do it, and I think that Russians are, maybe because of stupidity, because of, or maybe not because of stupidity. I said that jokingly because I really think that Russians are courageous, or the best way to put it is they're less averse to risk.
yeah, okay.
They're less averse to risk, and that's why you see all these "what the fuck Russia" videos happening around. Because I mean, and that's one of the things that I felt in with the whole coronavirus quarantine. I mean, is, well, people respected everything, but I don't. Well, now I would love to enter to this topic. Like, I never felt that panic arrived and people were panicking or something. It felt everything here for me, and you will update me on this. And I'm not exclusively talking about the coronavirus. Everything here, that dog drawing of the dog that everything is burning on the back, and the dog is like, it's fine.
Yeah,
It's a back to the
this is
normal now.
нормально.
Back to
This is нормально, dog.
and, and
It's gay dog. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, of course.
do you feel that the coronavirus thing was kind of like the reaction of the people was similar to this, or am I, because I know I miss a lot, so I would love to get updated in the things I
I
do.
mean, when this is the most scary thing. If you will see the whole Russia panicking, I mean,
Yeah,
it will be
will be
at the
the end of the
moment when
world.
the world absolutely will end. So this will be the only moment when Russia will panic. I mean, we didn't panic when the Soviet Union broke. We didn't.
Yeah.
Nobody panicked. Everybody tried to. So we are like like nation of survivalists in this case. I mean, so every Russian guy who is like having dacha, for example, my dad, yeah. So I had all these respirators, all the tools to just build, a house from the ground up. I had all this, vegetables to grow this. I mean, we are like prepared all the time to survive anything. So that's why it's not so scary in Russia. Also, we have a lot of territory. So this is the
And
only
resources.
thing you cannot just replace with something. When
Yes.
you're in Tokyo or in London, you need to think about your how you will put your gloves. And oh, I didn't do this. I just grabbed my kid, grabbed all the studio stuff, and went to dacha.
Yeah.
So this is like it works like a plan, and it's really actually helps you to isolate like beautifully without
Yeah.
any risks, without any external connections from other people.
Man, I
So
haven't thought about the effect of dachas on the whole coronavirus narrative, man. I have never articulated that, and it's extremely important, I guess. Don't you think?
yes, of course you have this thing with dachas for every big city in Russia.
I repeat for
And
those who are not Russian, dachas are countryside houses. Carry on. And it's
yeah, so
everywhere. Everybody has, not everybody, but a very large proportion of the population has some sort of countryside house where they can go, or a friend countryside house,
yeah,
or family. Or
so we can easily just it's a big luck that it happened in spring, late spring in Russia, because
Yeah.
we can rescue our asses. A lot of people have dacha without any
Heating.
heating
Yeah.
systems because they go to dacha only in summer. But it took a great shift in our numbers. If it wasn't dacha, maybe we had the same situation in USA, at least in Moscow.
Yeah.
It would be much more people. And the thing about panic is Russian people, they like naive, still naive. A lot of things happening around make people nervous, make people something, but never panicked because people are prepared for the whole bullshit from the government. They're always
Yeah.
prepared for bad times, for like um, for some crises in food industry, anything. So we just expecting bad things will happen. Like it's okay. I mean, bad things happen. It's okay. Just you need to move on. You need to
Yeah.
survive. You need. In Russia, we say there is a thing that comes from the war. Лишь бы не было войны. So the only thing matters that there is no war,
Yeah.
because everything else is like you can just survive it. You can go through. And also we say that the main thing is health. This is health stuff. Russian is not. They are not so into health, healthy food or sports or anything. But the health is like the main thing you have this is that you have health. Everything else you can just go through. You can achieve anything. You can do anything. At least you have health. So
I find, like, as a foreigner here, man, there is this Russian wisdom that has been accumulated across the thousands of years. It's super underrated place. Like, I'm really, that was, it's so fascinating when you make a project like this podcast. You start thinking that you're gonna do something, and you end up achieving something completely different. My main initiative was I want to open a window because I was once watching a Joe Rogan podcast, and he was referring to a Russia through this bear's vodka lens. And I was thinking that's a pretty sophisticated person. That's just not any rando. I mean, he to a certain extent. I mean, he's a person who has had contact with so many people, but yet he still has this stereotype, and how hard it is to break this. And the more I am having conversations with people, because interestingly enough, you're like the second Russian guest. Only I have had mostly guests from all over the world, but the more I value what we have here. It's a really really fascinating point, and I think that Russia has a special place in the world, occupies a special place in the world, and I would hope that people here would be more aware of that. Do you think that people are aware of that, or people are just? I mean, it seems like people like to trash Russia a lot, and that people don't feel this baggage. You know, do you feel it, or
it's really easy to trash Russia. It's really easy. I mean, it's really easy to make fun of
is it
the biggest country.
fashionable? Is it
Uh,
fashionable? Is it fashionable to trash Russia too?
I don't know, man. I mean, what would we give to the world? I mean, little big guys, that yeah, or some trash movies or something. So what we are just injecting to the culture. This is the response we have in back. I mean,
Yeah,
and the whole world is still thinking that we are Soviet Union. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who think about Russia like Putin is a Soviet president. I mean, something like this. Like we are shit. So I mean, this is okay. I mean, I'm okay with that, and this is funny. You can do fun of people. They think that Russia is
Do you feel that there is something like Russophobia in the world, or some sort of automatic rejection towards Russia from the West? Or
what I know.
my mom gets really angry about this. She's always fighting with people and defending Russia. Like,
No, I'm okay with the whole anti-Russian, position of the people from around the globe, because uh, when you accumulate all the data from around the world, you can see this. You can see that the Russia isn't the most fair place in the world. It's not the most clean or the most, uh, the most polite place in the world. It's not the place where you can, chill like you do it in some civilized countries like Switzerland. I mean, this is not the most safe place in the world. I mean, Russia is kind of difficult country to understand and to comprehend. And you cannot forget that Russia is about 230 different ethnoses. I mean, like different
ethnic groups.
nationality,
Yeah, ethnic
ethnic
groups.
group. Yeah. So I mean, with their own languages, with their own culture, without. So I mean, this is a huge amount of people. We are like so many. There are so many different, places nature-wise. We have jungle in Russia. We have Siberian forests. We have like
There are beaches like the beach you're seeing in the background. I was really shocked, man. This is a new part of the country, but in Crimea, I have been in places like that you see behind me.
so this Crimea stuff. Everybody like so fucking pissed about Crimea. I mean, I understand them. Also, I understand this. This is not fair. You cannot just take a piece of other country that was like done by documents. A piece of other country, but also you cannot do this shit when people are really into that from Crimea. There were a lot of
Yeah.
people who supported that. You cannot just see it from one
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah,
It's
it's really complex
wrong.
issue.
I mean, the world now is like so black and white, because you can just put money in Fox fucking television or CNN and spread the news one way, not another. This is wrong. I mean, you need to understand every piece, small and I mean every small detail, every small piece. The same stuff, like in Georgia, they began to make a riot because of some guy who was connected to Russia, and they began to do riots anti-Russia, and now we cannot go straight to Georgia because of that.
Yes.
And they were shouting like Russia. When you go to the Georgia and you speak with common people there, you understand they hate only our government.
Yeah,
They
of
love
course.
Russian people. They want to be with Russia all the time. They love Russian tourists. They love Russian people. They love it actually, without any, lies, just to make you pleased. Because I spoke with Georgian people in English also with some of them, and they didn't know that I was from Russia. I asked them just like, "What the shit about Russia is going on?" And they was like, no shit without Russia. With Russia, Russia's great. Their president is like asshole. I mean, okay. So people all around the world are thinking of Russia like Putin clones. I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah,
So we are the country of clones of our president,
yeah.
and they do not understand that actually. The power in Russia is really separated from the people. I mean, this is like a huge gap.
That is so
Huge.
true. Yeah,
They cannot understand that these people who are like ruling Russia, they are not people who ruling Russia actually. They're ruling two things, like oil money and army. So the force and the money.
yeah,
That's the thing. They do not rule restaurants. They do not rule music industry. They don't give a shit. They don't understand the value of this. They do not understand the value of the culture actually. So the culture and everything is made here by the passionate people who are crazy about their stuff. So they're really into that. So I'm doing education now with people who are really like into education. They want to make this better place, and no Putin
yeah,
involved.
yeah,
Zero.
yeah,
So because of that, many people misunderstand, have a misconception about Russia. And this the thing also about that we are like something is wrong with us. Nothing is wrong with you when you're afraid to be shot in the head from the police. I think it's wrong if you're not afraid of that. So
Exactly.
people in USA who are like, doing wrong moves when I saw a lot of videos from USA when people got shot because they're trying to reach something in their pockets, like,
When the
and
when the police is checking them or something like that. Like what do you mean?
yeah, something like this.
Mhm.
You just they ask you to pull over the car, and especially if you're
Of color, a person of color. Yeah.
color, yeah, person of color, yeah, so you're fucked in
Yeah.
many ways. And in Russia, we have the same stuff happening if you're not of the color. If you're just a guy who's doing something like not in a certain way to be expected. So people need to understand that my friends of my friends went to jail because of misbehavior on the level like they told something wrong or they get one friend of mine got in the jail because of in airport they found some not drugs but some trail of drugs,
Mm-hmm.
so not the substance itself
Yeah.
but just some,
Maybe
you
somebody
understand,
rolled a joint on top of his backpack, and then they
something
found
like
some.
that, something like that, so he went 2 years straight. So I
Yeah.
mean, this what people are afraid here, and that's why they do not doing something against the power. In Ukraine, they tried to that president who was removed in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to bring in some army and some military, but he was like, okay, I don't want to do this with my people, and so he escaped, and the military did nothing actually. In Russia, if we will just go to the riot or something like this, there will be huge load of young people with guns without any, second thoughts, and they will shoot fucking people out. I
Uh,
mean, they will shoot. This is no, and they will not shoot because they hate people. They will not shoot because they're stupid. No, they will shoot because they got paid for this job and they are really loyal. And army in Russia works this way. So I mean, this is like fucking working system in Russia. That's the most horrible thing. We have working systems in Russia and they work really good. That's the problem. So we have a lot of things that doesn't work properly, but the things are working is our army, our police, who is, and they working just in this scenario. They working only just not give people some power.
does the healthcare system works? I mean, according to you, in your opinion?
Well, you can see the things happening now. I mean, uh, there are hospitals full of people. I cannot tell you the whole picture because I'm not into that.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah. Sure.
I have some people who have issues with law. I have people who works in police or somebody. About healthcare, I can tell you only this. In my life, in my whole life, I didn't have any problems with healthcare at all in my life.
Yeah.
My father had a lot of issues with health. I mean, of critical stuff. I mean, cancer.
Well.
He was stabbed with a knife several times near home. I mean, like I don't know what was that, but it was like a scary moment. And he's still alive. So that's how I can tell you about healthcare system.
And he didn't pay
I
for
know
that
a lot.
treatment, right? He didn't pay for that treatment. It was
No, no,
all
no,
governmental.
no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there are a lot of issues. I mean, it's little bit. What you can know about Russia, and this may be also useful for your audience, people, if they weren't there, if they don't know. Russia is little bit like casino, so it's like it's a little bit unfair, and it's depends on the chances. And you can bring you with you a lot of money and lost them in one day, or you can just earn a lot of shit here. So it's like huge Vegas in this case, in this scenario. So you can imagine the Vegas country. So I mean, this same stuff about police, the same stuff about healthcare. So there could be a great chances that you will be dead in like 2 days in Russia if you just go somewhere wrong direction, see something that you don't need to see, and it will be. So I mean,
And there is a
That's why
chance that
people.
you can find your wife. I mean, it's just like a casino.
And also, there is a chance that you can find the most beautiful woman in your life. You can just record the greatest album of your life, and you can be like, the happiest man here. I mean, this is the equal chances here, and they are not like predictable. So you cannot do the Russia is a country where you cannot do anything by the right moves. So there is no right moves in Russia.
You
You
have
just
to be
need.
in constant adaptation for an ever
Yeah.
changing landscape.
So yeah, we're survivalists, as I told you. I
Look,
mean, we you need to be prepared for everything. Survival of the fittest.
Look,
Like,
you dropped such a. I mean, I promise you to let you go at 8 p.m. local time, and you dropped such a perfect sentence that I think is a great place to leave it, unless you want to extend it. Because and what excites me a lot is that we didn't even touch the topic of music. So I mean, we have so many episodes ahead together, and I think and I think that's
okay,
great because I mean, for me, I want to make this as a routine because I mean, first I get the chance to see you, and we get the chance to talk without any interruptions or somebody writing us or something like that. So I find a great place when you started going into the Vegas thing and the log part of being here. I find it such a beautiful sentence that I don't think we can top that today. So I think it's a great
okay,
place to leave it.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Agreed.
So well,
Yeah.
this has been amazing. I will put in the description below the links for everywhere where you can hear and experience the work of Andrey. Andrey is a wonderful human being. I'm extremely blessed to have met him, and he's really working so hard to make this country a better place. And he's not doing it with the intention of being attached to a locality. Is just to push humanity forwards. It's really obvious that that's what's behind everything you're doing, and I'm so happy that I opened this space because it means that we're gonna get to sit down a lot and talk a lot, and that's really amazing.
Thank you so much for having me, Leo. Yes, I really dig it. I mean, I love the way you represent it. Like let's do this humanity better place. Yeah, this is my motto. Yes, this is my way
It
to
obviously
speak.
feels like that. I mean, because you're really focusing in spreading the word of better ideas and this is not connected to a place or to. It's obvious. It's just connected to the solar system. So thank you very much for
Yeah,
everything you do.
thank you.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
amazing. So we'll have you back soon, and then we will talk about music, and that's where we are experts, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. So thank you very
thank you.
much for doing this, and we'll see you soon in another. This is gonna be a fixed segment, so it's called Birras with Andrei.
Okay, so I need to buy another sort of beer next time. Yes, I
Well, man, I think
understand.
we need to make some sort of toast here, Caribbean toast. Can you please? Yeah, take care, man.
So let's say the toast that people need to know, because this is this thing that really bothers me. Okay, so this is this thing.
Uh huh.
There is no Russian toast.
Ah, yeah,
Na zdоровье.
yeah.
This is fucking
Tourists,
wrong.
tourists, please know that.
So please stop it.
Yeah,
If you want to drink for somebody's health, you tell it за здоровье. За
za zdrowie.
for
For
somebody's health.
for their
Yes,
health.
or you tell something like за удачу,
For the
for
good
the best
luck.
luck, for the good luck.
Yeah.
Yes, so за, not na.
Please, everybody, za zdrowie. You have, and the thing is that it's really beautiful about Russia. All the toasts have to be unique. You don't always toast for the same thing. So in this case, I
Oh,
told.
I think we can just make the whole, like episode, and I can tell you about Russian, Georgian, and other toasts,
Perfect.
and I know them a lot of them. I know a
Perfect.
lot of
It's
them.
gonna be
So
amazing.
yes,
So in this case, I say za Andrey Ryzhkov for you, my friend.
for you, my friend.
Cheers. Take
Yay!
care.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.